What happens when a Hollywood legend, whose career is filled with both triumphs and scandals, clashes with a host known for her unapologetic bluntness? This moment on The View became one of those unforgettable events etched into the memory of viewers. Mel Gibson, an actor and director whose films like Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ have sparked intense discussions, appeared on the show to promote his new project. But nothing could have prepared the audience for what unfolded next. The studio fell silent, cameras hummed, and the words spoken in the live broadcast spread across the globe, going viral. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a battle of principles, dignity, and boundaries that should never be crossed. A sunny morning in New York. The View studio is buzzing with anticipation. Bright spotlights illuminate the round table where the hosts, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin, are seated. The audience erupts in applause as Mel Gibson steps onto the stage. His stride is confident yet reserved, his smile warm, though a hint of wariness flickers in his eyes. Dressed in a dark blazer and a white shirt with the top button undone, he exudes the aura of someone who knows how to handle the cameras. He waves to the audience, who greet him with enthusiastic cheers. This is Mel Gibson, the man whose roles in Lethal Weapon and Mad Max made him an icon, and whose directorial work has inspired both admiration and controversy. Joy Behar, seated at the head of the table, adjusts her glasses and flashes a smile. But there's something sharp, almost predatory, in her expression. Known for her no-holds-barred style, she seems ready for a show today. "Mel, so great to see you," she says, her voice dripping with her signature sarcasm. "You're back with a new movie, right? Tell us about it." Gibson nods, his voice calm but laced with a slight Australian accent that adds charm. "It's a historical drama about human resilience. I believe stories like this are needed, especially now." The atmosphere feels friendly. Sarah Haynes, sitting nearby, smiles and chimes in. "I heard it's something big. You're back in the director's chair?" Gibson nods, his face relaxed, though his eyes remain watchful of the hosts. Whoopi Goldberg, usually a balance of humor and seriousness, stays silent, clutching her coffee mug. The audience hums softly, some already pulling out their phones to record. The producers backstage exchange glances. Everything is going according to plan. For now. But then Joy Behar leans forward, her eyes narrowing. "Mel, let me clarify something," she begins, and there's a shift in her tone that makes the studio go quiet. "Your films often carry, let's say, controversial messages. You call yourself a man of faith, but don't you think some of your past actions, how should I put it, don't quite align with that faith?" The studio falls silent. The cameras hum, and operators exchange quick glances. Sarah Haynes nervously shuffles her papers, while Sunny Hostin casts a concerned look at Whoopi, who merely raises an eyebrow. Gibson freezes for a moment, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. The audience holds its breath, sensing the tension. That was the first shot, and it was aimed to hit. Gibson leans back in his chair, his face remaining calm, but a steely glint appears in his eyes. "Joy, I'm here to talk about my movie," he says, his voice steady but with a hint of firmness. "My beliefs are my business. I think my work speaks for itself." A few tentative claps come from the audience, but Behar doesn't back down. "Oh, come on, Mel," she says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You know what people say. Your scandals, your statements. You can't just come here and pretend none of it matters. People want to know, are you really who you claim to be, or is this just another role?" The silence in the studio becomes oppressive. Someone in the audience gasps, another whispers to their neighbor. The camera zooms in on Gibson, catching the slight clench of his fingers on the armrest. His face remains composed, but a twitch at the corner of his mouth betrays the tension. Sarah Haynes tries to intervene. "Joy, maybe we should get back to the movie? I think Mel has a lot to say about." But Behar cuts her off, her eyes locked on Gibson. "No, Sarah, let's be honest. People deserve to know the truth." Gibson takes a slow breath, his gaze growing heavy. "The truth?" he repeats, his voice low, almost menacing. "Joy, you want the truth?" Then tell me why you think you have the right to dig into my life when I came here to talk about art. You want a show? You'll get one, but not at my expense. The audience erupts in mixed reactions. Some clap, some whisper, others pull out their phones to record. Whoopi Goldberg finally steps in. Okay, let's all calm down. Mel, tell us about your movie. But Behar presses on. Oh, Whoopi, don't be so soft. Mel, you talk about resilience, but how can you speak about resilience when you've been accused of things that, well, let's just say, aren't very resilient? The producers backstage start to panic. One whispers into a headset. This is getting out of hand. Get security ready just in case. The cameras hum, operators scrambling to catch every move as Gibson slowly stands from his chair. His presence feels even more imposing than usual, and his voice, when he finally speaks, rumbles like thunder. Joy, you want to talk about my mistakes? Fine. But let's talk about yours. You sit here, throwing accusations, but what have you done besides stirring up drama for ratings? The studio explodes. The audience shouts, some cheering, some whistling. Sarah Haynes covers her face with her hands, Sunny Hostin looks like she wants to disappear, and Whoopi Goldberg raises her hand, trying to calm things down, but her voice is drowned out by the noise. Gibson stands tall, his eyes blazing, and Behar, for the first time, seems to realize she may have gone too far. The View studio is engulfed in chaos. The hum of cameras mixes with the audience's shouts, now divided. Some cheer for Mel Gibson, others whisper, stunned by his sharp retort. Gibson stands by his chair, his posture radiating tension, but his eyes show not just anger but a deep weariness. Joy Behar, adjusting her glasses, tries to regain control, but her voice trembles with barely contained frustration. Mel, I'm just asking the questions people care about, she says, her tone wavering between defiance and defense. You're a public figure. You can't just dodge accountability for your actions. Gibson slowly turns to her, his gaze heavy but composed. Accountability? He repeats, his voice low and piercing. Joy, I've taken accountability for every mistake I've made. I've paid for them, in my personal life and my career. But you sit here, throwing accusations like you have the moral high ground to judge. Tell me, when was the last time you looked in the mirror and asked yourself if your words help or just destroy? The audience erupts. Some clap in support of Gibson, others whisper, taken aback by his candor. Sarah Haynes forces a nervous smile, trying to diffuse the tension. Okay, maybe we all take a breath? Mel, your movie sounds really powerful, maybe tell us more about it. But her words are lost in the charged atmosphere. Whoopi Goldberg, who has been silent, finally speaks. Mel, Joy, let's respect each other. We're here to talk, not fight. But Behar doesn't hear her. She leans forward, her eyes glinting. Mel, you talk about accountability, but what about your past statements? You think you can just come here, act like none of it happened, and everyone will forget? Those words are the final straw. The cameras catch Gibson's jaw tightening, his fingers gripping the armrest harder. He takes a slow breath, as if summoning all his strength to keep from exploding. The studio falls silent, the hum of the cameras seeming louder in the stillness. The producers backstage exchange panicked looks, one whispering into a headset. Prep the commercial break, this is spiraling. Gibson slowly rises from his chair, his movements deliberate but charged with power. He looks straight at Behar, and his eyes hold not just anger but a profound resolve. Joy, he begins, his voice quiet but cutting through the studio's silence like a blade. I came here to talk about art, about stories that can inspire people. But you chose to dig in the dirt. You think you have the right to judge me for my mistakes? Fine. But let me tell you something. I'm human. I've messed up. I've fallen. But I got back up and kept working because I believe in what I do. And you? You hide behind your platform, throwing accusations and calling it journalism. This isn't journalism. It's a circus. The audience erupts in applause, but not unanimously. Some sit in stunned silence, others whisper, pulling out phones to record. The camera zooms in on Behar, who looks shaken, her usual confidence cracking. She opens her mouth to respond, but Gibson raises a hand, stopping her. "I'm not done," he says, his voice growing stronger. "You want to talk about accountability? Start with yourself. Stop using people as targets for your ratings. Art, faith, humanity. These aren't toys for your show. And if you don't get that, I feel sorry for you." He abruptly turns, removes his microphone from his jacket, and tosses it onto the table with a soft clack that echoes like a gunshot in the studio. Then, without looking back, Gibson walks toward the exit. His steps are steady, but there's a weariness in them, the weight of someone who's fought battles like this too many times. The audience explodes with mixed reactions, cheers, shouts, whispers. Someone yells, "Mel, you're right!" Another voice, "Joy, that was too much!" Behar sits stunned, her face paling. Whoopi Goldberg quickly takes over. "All right, we'll be right back after the break." Her voice shakes as she tries to salvage the moment. Sarah Haynes and Sunny Hostin exchange looks, unsure what to say. The producers backstage are in a frenzy, shouting into headsets, while operators scramble to capture the final shots of Gibson disappearing behind the curtain. The sound of his footsteps, clicks of his shoes on the floor, lingers in the memory of everyone present. The studio remains in chaos. The audience is split. Some cheer Gibson for his principles, others whisper that he dodged accountability. Behar, still at the table, tries to smile, but it's forced. "Well, that was interesting," she says, her voice weak. Whoopi Goldberg swiftly shifts to another topic, but the tension in the studio is palpable. The cameras cut away, and the show goes to commercial, but the moment has already gone viral. Social media lights up with clips recorded by the audience. Gibson tossing the mic, his words about art and humanity, Behar's stunned face. The hashtag Mel vs. Joy starts trending. Backstage, Gibson stands in the hallway, his shoulders slightly slumped. A producer approaches, offering water, but he waves it off. "I said what I needed to say," he mutters, heading for the exit. Security escorts him to his car, where a crowd of fans waits outside the studio, chanting his name. The clash between Mel Gibson and Joy Behar became one of the most talked about moments of the year. Clips from the show flooded social media, sparking heated debates. Some accused Gibson of avoiding responsibility, arguing he should have addressed his past. Others supported him, saying Behar crossed a line by turning the interview into a personal attack. The media split. Some called Gibson a hero for defending his dignity. Others labeled him a scandal-prone figure unable to handle criticism. Behar's reputation took a hit. Some viewers called her questions fair, but most felt she went too far, using Gibson's past for drama. Gibson himself stayed silent, but his new film gained extra attention, and his speech about art and humanity was quoted in articles and posts. What do you think of this conflict? Did Gibson do the right thing by walking out? Did Behar have the right to ask those questions? Who was in the right in this battle of principles? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this.